Time in YouTube, and welcome to the Burning Shadows set review. Pokebeach has launched the full set of what we will be obtaining in just a couple weeks, or for those of you who are hitting those pre-releases this weekend, you'll be able to see exactly what you'll be playing with, and a couple cards that you are actually not going to be seeing. I'll go through those as we go, but as you can see, there is one particular card right here that's sitting here, and that is the Charizard Full Art. And the reason it's sitting up here is because it's not in the set, and we'll get back to that in just a few moments further down the list. But let's go through it. Like I said, in every set list, this is going to take a while, and for everybody who wants to see this list, it is on Pokebeach, and I'll have a link to it in the description so you guys can check it out at any time, whether it be in the next week or in the next year. It's always going to be there. But anyway, let's get straight into this, because this is going to be a while. Anyway, starting off, our first official Pokemon in this thing is Butterfree, and I love the homage to the original Pokemon anime, where Butterfree actually says goodbye to the main character. But needless to say, is it worthwhile and competitive? Butterfree is a Stage 2 grass type, and now that Forest of Giant Plants rotates at this point, that's a little bit more difficult. It has bye-bye healing for 1 grass energy. You get to heal all damage from all of your Pokemon. That's pretty good. And then you have to shuffle this Pokemon and all cards attached to it back in your deck. Not so good. Not so good. It does have Stun Spore for 1 grass, 2 colorless. You will get that 60 damage down, but you do have to flip a coin to potentially paralyze your opponent. So overall, Butterfree is not something you want to worth a Stage 2 into your deck. Like, yeah, bye-bye healing is actually really cool. It's got a neat concept of being able to completely refresh your board, but the cost of a Stage 2, and now without Forest of Giant Plants, I don't see it being such a fantastic card. Maybe in Expanded, somebody will prove me wrong. And again, for those of you who are just coming here and this is your first set review from me, this is always my opinion. It doesn't necessarily mean anything in terms of what could happen in meta. I did not think Drampa was going to be as big of a hit as it is, but Drampa GX is seeing a lot more play than I thought. So always take this with, you know, a little bit of, this is my opinion. Anyway, moving on. We have, for our next one, the Vileplume. And again, I like showcasing the artwork because a lot of it is really, really cool. Vileplume is no different here, and it's still got a very interesting ability. It has Disgusting Pollen. If this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, your opponent's basic Pokemon can't attack. Now again, we do not have Forest of Giant Plants, so this thing does need to fully evolve or go through Rare Candy. But that's a pretty interesting ability nonetheless, and I really think with the high expectations of basic Pokemon, especially things like Tauros and Drampa, who are still, even Tapu Lele, who are in the format to stay for a long period of time, I can see Vileplume doing quite well in competitive. It does have the attack Downer Shock, 2 grass, 1 colorless, 60 damage, flip a coin. If heads, your opponent's active Pokemon is now asleep. If tails, they're confused. It's sort of like how our current Vileplume in Standard is, where it's got the attack, but you really don't want to use it. Moving on, we've got Tangrowth. The artwork is pretty interesting nonetheless. Tangrowth has Giga Drain for 1 grass energy, 30 damage. This Pokemon recovers HP equal to the amount of damage done to your opponent's active Pokemon. So if you do have a choice band on it and you manage to hit a GX or an EX, you gain 60 HP instead. He's got an HP stat of 140, so he is not as bulky, but he's pretty decent for a Stage 1. He has Crosswise Whip for 4 colorless energy, which is actually pretty playable because it's only 2 double colorless drops. Flip 4 coins. This attack does 50 damage times the number of heads. So, let that sink in for a minute. 4 potential flips. Throw Victini in here. Okay, so now we've got at least the opportunity to reflip one of them. So we're guaranteed a little bit more odds to get this. You can pair it with Lurantis and Choice Band. So you have that potential to hit, 200 damage of all 4 heads, and that's not including boosts. So if you have the Lurantis boost, that's a guaranteed 20, and then if you have Choice Band and you are hitting an EX or GX, you're hitting for at least 50 on top of the 250. So 250 potential. You know what? People are going to try it. I might try it. Victini Tangrowth seems like a cool idea. Is it going to be competitive? No. Next up, we have Ledian. Cool little guy here. Ledian it's a stage 1, grass type still, with Swift. For 1 grass energy, you can do 30 damage. This attack's damage isn't affected by weakness, resistance, or any other effects on your opponent's active Pokemon. It's Swift even in the game, like it's just no matter what's going to happen, you will do 30 damage. There is not much going on there. It has Comet Punch, which is kind of like a staple for Ledian. For 3 colorless energy, you get to do 40 times damage. And this is, again, flip 4 coins, this attack does 40 damage times the number of heads. So, unlike Tangrowth, I can't heal. I can just hit guaranteed with Swift, but I can still do the whole coin flipping sort of thing. I'd still prefer Tangrowth because it's got 50 more base HP, and it will just take a bit more of a hit better. Definitely not going to be the same as how one of the decks I'm currently running, Torchic, is, but we'll see if they play out pretty well. Next up is Heracross, and again, I really like this artwork. I really do like this card, and I'm kind of hoping it's a holo, but I might be wrong, I'm not sure. It has the ability Guts. If this Pokemon would be knocked out by your opponent's attack, flip a coin. If heads, this Pokemon is not knocked out and it remains at 10 HP. So, you pretty much have a guaranteed chance of living. So, it's a 50-50 chance. You could survive any hit. It's a cool ability, I really like it. Unfortunately, he only has 110 HP, so he's not all that bulky, and his attack isn't really all that great either. He's got Pitch, 2 grass energy, 50 damage. Your opponent switches their active Pokemon with one of their benched, so not strong. It has that Lysander pull, but it's more of an escape rope, not Lysander. But anyway, cool ability, not so great attack. Will he play? I don't know. I don't think so. Next up is Simisage, so the monkeys return. The monkeys return in this set. Simisage has Scratch, 1 colorless energy, 30 damage, pretty basic, and Leaf Supply, 1 grass, 1 colorless, 50 damage. You may attach a grass energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon. Kinda cool, but we already have Fomantis, who's a basic that can do this, and then the Rantis GX, who can do it better, so I didn't see the point in this. Next up is Araquanid, so a second Araquanid, which is really cool. We have Bubble Net, which has 30 damage, and the energy can't be attached to the defending Pokemon from your opponent's hand during the next turn. So if you can manage to get this off like turn 1, you completely energy deny your opponent, which is massive. Now you can't stop the bench, but you can stop your opponent from playing any energy on the thing that's attacking Araquanid, which is really cool. You can definitely see this thing probably getting put into some of the stall decks that are currently coming out, like Quadwob, Sylveon, all those kind of things. And I think it pairs well with the other Araquanid, but I'm not 100% sure. I think this will have some play. I think the Araquanid will see something. Not a whole lot, but something. It also has Sharp Fang. For 1 grass, 2 colors, you'll do 80 damage. So, you got an attack. Cool. That's it. Alright, now the Pokemon people have been very hyped for. This card has seen a lot of hype over the last little bit. First off, we will look over Wimpod. He's a pretty simple... Oops, that didn't even get over to you guys. There you go. Wimpod. Wimpod has the ability Wimp Out during your first turn. This Pokemon has no retreat cost, so for whatever reason, if you do not want him in the active position, you can switch him out of there, which is actually a really good ability. It's just a little downside that it can only be on your first turn. It also has Gnaw, 30 damage, not bad. It's god-awfully terrible. It's 1 grass, 2 colorless for 30 damage. No thanks. What is amazing though is this monstrosity. I can't even put this all on the screen for you guys. Golisopod GX is the stage 1 GX that we've been looking for. It is a grass type with 210 HP, has first impression. For 1 grass energy, you're going to do 30 damage. Plus, this attack does 90 more damage if this Pokemon became your active during this turn. Very good. Now pair this with the Promo Lurantis, you can get an additional 20. paired up with Choice Band, and that's an additional 50 damage on top. So you're hitting for, 170 damage, which is really good for 1 energy. You also have Armor Press, 1 grass, 2 colorless, 100 damage. During your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes 20 less damage from your opponent's attacks, which is cool. Again, not as good as first impression. You will be seeing a lot of rotating Golissopods. And as its GX attack, it has Crossing Cut. For 1 grass, 2 colorless, you will hit for 150 damage. Downside, technically, is you have to switch this Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. But that's not a problem. It's not really a problem, because you don't mind rotating out. So this thing could probably pair well with Golisopod. Golisopod, it is Golisopod. It can pair well with Zoroark, and there is a card coming down the list that it will definitely pair well with. But anyway, next up is Charizard GX. This guy here, I find it hilarious that Golisopod was like massive. Like, look at the size comparison. Like, look at this. Look at this. Like, guys, this is hilarious. So apparently Golisopod is way more hyped up than Charizard, even though Charizard is like one of the biggest staple cards in anything. Like, everybody in their everything wants a Charizard. So this card here, regardless of how playable it will be sought after by the collectors. So Charizard, you're a welcome set. Now, is it going to be any good? Charizard GX is a Stage 2 Fire type, so you do need to fully evolve into it nowadays. It's not like the EX era, and it doesn't obviously have Forest of Giant Plants. Now, it has Wing Attack, 70 damage for 3 colorless energy. That's not very good. Next up is Crimson Storm, which is 300 damage. But you have to discard 3 energies attached to this Pokemon in order to use it, and 3 of the energy. So this attack will cost you 5 energy, and 3 of them must be fire energy. Now, if I'm correct, we still have Burning Energy still in format for Charizard GX to play around with. That is cool. And there are cards coming that can set Charizard GX up pretty nicely. So it'll see a little bit of play, or at least it'll have a niche play where people who want to play Charizard, they can build it. In terms of how fast and how consistent it'll be, that has just got something to do with a little bit of time, where we're going to see how people are going to adapt this depending on how much they want to play Charizard GX. And the other weird thing here is its Raging Out GX attack. For 1 fire, 2 colorless, you get to discard the top 10 cards of your opponent's deck. And again, this really doesn't sound like Charizard, but like I can understand him being a flying type, and this being like, we're getting rid of all your cards with our Wings of Glory. But that kind of fits more like a Pidgeot or somebody like that, not a Charizard who's meant to be powerful. Like, I would have expected this GX attack to hit for like 500, just because of the absurd amount of damage Charizards can do. Like, 300 damage is over the top. Like, it's not necessary. 250 HP currently is the top HP, if I'm correct. I think I am, though. So, it's cool. Next up, though, is a very fantastic support to Charizard, and that is the Ho-Oh GX. And this is another interesting card. Very expensive, but we'll see how it goes. It is a basic fire type with Sacred Fire as its first attack. And this attack does 50 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So for 1 fire, 2 colorless, we get to do 50 to whatever we want, which isn't terrible. It's actually not bad. But then next up, you have Phoenix Burn. 3 fire, 1 colorless, 180 damage. This Pokemon cannot use it on the following turn. Okay, we can get around that. There are so many cards now in format that have that kind of ability, and we know how to get around that. The hard part, though, is the fact that it costs 3 fire energy. So we'll come back to this again. There is a particular card that will be showing up later. And before we go any further, normally in these kind of sets, you have a regular art, a full art, and a hyper rare. Charizard and Ho-Oh both do not fit this criteria. Charizard here only has the Charizard GX and the Charizard GX Hyper Rare in this set. The full art is coming in a Charizard Premium Collection, I think in October. I could be wrong there. And Ho-Oh only has the regular art and the full art. The hyper rare is coming in the premium collection for shining legendaries. So if you guys happen to pick up the Mewtwo premium box for Generations, you'll pretty much know what you're getting here, where you get the rainbow rare, Ho-Oh, and then you'll get a bunch of packs and some other stuff in it as well. So, which you'll get a bunch of packs from Shining Legends, which is another set coming up very, very shortly. Next up, though, continuing on from these GX hype, we have Simisear. So, my assumption is this is going to do something very similar to the grass one. Let's take a quick look. It's got Scratch, it's the same thing, 30 damage for 1 colorless, and Flare Recharge, 1 fire, 1 colorless, 50 damage, and you attach a fire energy from your discard pile to one of your benched. It's not great. I have to waste a turn to recharge. There are better cards out there than that. Next up, we're going to see a new Heatmore, which you really can't see the artwork from here. So unfortunately, nothing I can do better than that. But it's got Order Sleuth for 2 colorless, and you get to flip 2 coins for each hedge, put a card from your discard pile back into your hand, which is really cool. It does have a nice little nice little niche there. It has Searing Flame for 1 fire, 2 colorless, 60 damage. Your opponent's active Pokemon is Burn. Burn is really cool because it does do 30 damage naturally, and then you get to see if you cure the burn. So it's really cool. Now, what's noticeable here is there's no Salandit, which was in the previous set, but we have Salazzle GX, which again, I apologize for the size problems, but Salazzle GX is here, has that diabolical claws for 2 fire energy. It's going to do 50 times damage. This attack does 50 times the number of prize cards you've already taken. So if you are winning, Salazzle is going to do more damage. So if you are 1 prize away for 2 fire energies, you'll be able to do 250 damage. This is actually cool. Again, though, if you're right at the start of the game, Salazzle's not going to do too much. But it does have Heat Blast. For the same energy cost, you'll do 110 damage. So it's a little like Tauros, where it's like, same energy cost down the board, different effects for that energy. Next up, though, is Queen's Haze GX. For the same cost, 2 fire, you are going to discard all energies from your opponent's active Pokemon. Well, if you're in a tight jam, that's a cool GX attack. Not going to deny it. It's not going to... It's sort of like how Umbreon works, where if you're playing stall, it's cool. And then Salazzle has a little bit of stall, a lot of power, and then scaling power, which is cool. So, do I see it being really, really offensive? It depends on how powerful Golisopod gets the next little bit. Are you weak to fire? Yes, you're weak to fire. So, yeah, I guess it depends on how powerful it gets. Salazzle could be really, really good. Next up is a Turtonator. We're seeing lots of Turtonator. I don't mind the artwork here. But again, this looks like it's a promo card in their set. But for us, we're just getting it as a basic card in the set. It has Flame Cloak, 1 fire, 1 colorless. It's going to do 30 damage. You attach a fire energy from your discard pile to this Pokemon, which is, I guess, okay. And then you've got Heat Blast, 70 damage. I probably would not put this in the deck. Just being honest. Alright, so I kind of have to go over this one because it's got that basic no energy cost, and Beacon Alolan Vulpix has been huge. Didn't even go over it in the last one, I don't think I did. But I'm gonna have to start doing it because these things can be just as powerful or more important as some other things. Now, this one has Powder Snow, flip a coin. If heads, your opponent's active Pokemon is now asleep. So Beacon's still better because you're going to be able to draw Pokemon. If they can't end you away, you'll be able to play those Pokemon the following turn. Next up is Alolan Ninetales non-GX form. It has Luminous Barrier, prevents all effects of attacks, including damage done to this Pokemon by opponent's EX and GX Pokemon. Really cool. This is literally like a safeguard. So as long as they're playing all GXs and all EXs, nothing can touch this Alolan Ninetales, which is absolutely insane. Which is it's pretty cool. It also has Aurora Beam for 80 damage. So we're not going to be doing a lot of damage. But again, if you're using it in the format of I'm going to be taking on just GXs and just EXs, this thing will block all of it. So it's cool. I really like the card. Next up is a card I've seen some people already build decks for, and that is Kingdra. Now, I will not specify that I know all the perks and the benefits from this card, but you can definitely see that for 1 water energy, you get 2 attacks, which is absolutely fantastic. For Brine, it costs you 1 water energy. This attack does 90 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon that has any damage counters on it already. So, you get to snipe. You get to do some major sniping on the board. You want to hit those things that don't have high HP costs. So, that is a great attack there. And then you have Tornado Shot for the same energy cost, 90 damage. You get to discard a water energy attached to this Pokemon, and this attack does 30 damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. Now, this might be very good to partner up with like a Tapu Koko who can just spread damage, and then you go for Brine, which will do 90 to whatever you want. I don't know how much, like, I don't see this, like, I can see the scaling for Brine working very nicely. You just might not be able to get the one-shots, but we'll see how it is. I think Kingdra will have some play, and a lot of people are pretty hyped for it already, so definitely keep your eyes out for that one. Next up, obviously, is the Gyarados, and look at the intense artwork on this card. People are just going to want it for the artwork alone. And I have to mention, you've got Magikarp. I have a friend of mine who collects Magikarps, and he's excited for the Magikarp. Anyway, onto the Gyarados. For 2 colorless energy, we have Venting Anger, 50 times damage. This attack does 50 damage times the number of Magikarp in your discard pile. So at most, you're only going to do 150 damage. It's a really neat idea in comparison to the Ancient Trait one, where it does damage based on the damage counters on Magikarp. But this one will never get as high in damage. You can obviously attach choice bands and stuff, but you can't just completely set up Gyarados after Gyarados after Gyarados when they have to be in the discard pile. But you could probably set this up with like Mew EX and have all 4 Magikarps in the discard. Or no, you have to have a Gyarados still in play. I don't know how to do it. We'll see. I guarantee you somebody will come up with an idea. It also has Splash Burn, 2 water, 2 colorless, 160 damage, so you're already looking at a much stronger attack. And this attack does 30 damage to each of your benched Pokemon. The negatives kind of outweigh the positives, so we'll see how it goes. Next up, we have a very flat Azumarill. A thick fat ability. Any damage to this Pokemon by your opponent's water or fire types is reduced by 30 damage, which is neat. And you also have Waterfall, 80 damage. Not great. It's just an okay card. And we're finally getting to the third monkey, which is Pampor. Has Scratch. So, again, just like the others, for 1 colorless, 30 damage, and has Aqua Reflect, 1 water, 1 colorless, 50 damage, so same across the board for all monkeys, but you get to move 1 water energy from this Pokemon to one of your benched. I'll be honest with you, the grass one is definitely the best one. The other 2 aren't very good. Next up, we have Bruxish, who is a water type that doesn't seem to get as much love as it needs. For 1 water energy, you have Gnash Teeth. The defending Pokemon is now confused. So this is really cool because it's literally like SB on GX, where it's so popular because of that confusion turn 1. You get that immediate power and that immediate status effect that forces the opponent to either evolve immediately or hope and gamble to hit you. It also has Synchronize. 1 water, 2 colors, 60 damage. This attack does 20 damage to each of your opponent's benched Pokemon that has the same type as your opponent's active Pokemon. So, you do have a little bit of spread damage here. This kind of card is really cool, and it might pair up well with Kingdra, because you do have that opportunity to spread damage on your opponent's same type of Pokemon. Now, in my opinion, if you're going to use a Pokemon to help Kingdra, it's still better to use Tapu Koko. Next up is the Tapu Fini GX, and again, apologize for the size. Tapu Fini GX has Aqua Ring for 1 colorless energy, 20 damage. You may switch this Pokemon with one of your bench, which is cool. Nothing over the top, just a nice little thing. It has Hydro Shot, 2 water, 1 colorless. You discard 2 water energies attached to this Pokemon, and you do 120 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. It can be anywhere, but you do have to discard those energy. And then it's got Tapu Storm GX, 1 water energy. Shuffle your opponent's active Pokemon and all cards attached to it into your opponent's deck. If your opponent has no bench Pokemon, this attack will fail. So, you can't just win with this attack. And that's why it only costs 1, because you're not going to be able to use it turn 1. But if your opponent is using like a stage 2, like, powerful Pokemon that you just cannot handle, like, this is going to make and break that. So it'll see some love in certain water decks. I was hearing Yellow Swella mention that he might put it in his Lapras deck, which could definitely have a nice fit in it, because it does have that ability to do a little bit of damage to the bench, which is really nice. And then also, if you want to choose this GX attack over the other one, can kind of get you out of a jam. Next up, we have Pikachu and Raichu as the... Oh, I was about to say is the only electric type Pokemon, then I saw another one right below, so disregard that. We have a pretty artwork, I like it. It has Evo Shock. When you play this card from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may leave your opponent's active Pokemon paralyzed. So no flipping, you just can do it. Beautiful, I like that ability. It has Volt Tackle for 2 lightning, 1 colorless, 130 damage. This Pokemon does take 30 damage itself though. You're going to be using this for its ability. If you want paralysis, you can do it. But nowadays, confusion and stuff like that is a little bit easier to get off. So I'll be interested to see if this does see play. Next up is Electivire. You're getting the 4 slot this time. He's a pretty powerful looking card down there. Electivire has Thunder Punch for 1 lightning, 2 colorless. You're going to do 60 damage, and you get to flip a coin. If heads, this attack does 60 more damage. If tails, you're going to hurt yourself. So you have the potential for 120 damage for 3 energy. Cool. It has Giga Impact, 2 lightning, 2 colors, 170 damage, but you can't attack on the next turn. Giga Impact isn't terrible, and you can kind of pair this up with Vikavolt to keep it, like, to quickly get those energies out. Those kind of things are getting a little bit more better for the lightning type Pokemon, because you have Magnezone, you've got Vikavolt, you have options to get those energies out. So you can get that pretty much turn 2. So it's not terrible, and you can always rotate and add like float stones and stuff. And you can add Choice Band to it to get to that 200 mark. So Electivire's damage output is cool. It's again, I don't see it consistently being competitive, but it's got some cool niches that you can get it working. Next up is I want to kind of showcase this one because it's kind of cool. You do have Electric here, and the artwork is kind of donkey. But you have Small Appetite, 1 grass, 1 colorless. 1 grass? It's 1 lightning, 1 colorless. If your opponent's active Pokemon has a maximum HP of 100 or more, it will do absolutely nothing. Otherwise, it'll do 50. It was missing that in the text. So it's kind of weird that they made his only attack missable if they have more than 100 HP. I don't know. Anyway, next up is the main focus, and that is Electros. Has Dark Clamp, 1 lightning, 1 colorless, 50 damage. The defending Pokemon can't retreat during your opponent's next turn. That's kind of cool, but there are always ways around that. And it has Vacuum Bolt, 2 lightning, 1 colors, 80 damage. You may do an additional 80 damage. If you do, this attack does 80 damage to one of your own Pokemon. That's a lot of damage to take just to do 80 more damage. And this is a stage 2, so I'm sure somebody will come up with a combo, but I'm not big on it. Next up, we have a new Togedemaru, whose artwork is pretty cute, I gotta say. His artwork is pretty awesome. Has Rollout, 1 lightning, 20 damage, and has Electro Smash, 1 lightning, colorless, for 40 damage, and you get to flip a coin. If heads, this attack does 20 more damage. Enough said. Next up is Slowking, which is kind of cool. He's got Drift Ashore, search your deck for a card and put it into your hand, shuffle your deck afterwards. For 1 psychic energy, that's not bad. You also have Unarmed. For 3 psychic energy, 110 damage. If you have no cards in your hand, this Pokemon can use this attack even without the required energy. So this one actually benefits you if you don't have any cards in your hand. That is a really cool attack. It's different. You don't see that a whole lot where it's telling you to do it. Now, there's always ways to scale, and you can partner this up with a whole bunch of psychic types that could be beneficial. So we'll see how it goes. Next up, we have a new Wobbuffet. Here we are here. I do like the artwork. Has Shadowy Knot. For 3 psychic energy, you're going to do 50 times for each colorless in your opponent's active retreat cost. So there are ways to definitely increase this. You've lost a few of them in standard because of the rotation. Like, you lost your Team Aqua base, you lost your Team Aqua Muck, but you do have a Lowland Trio. There are options there. Next up is Seviper, who is a pretty looking card, and if you are a fan of poison, this is going to be one of those cards for you, because his main thing is more poison. His ability is more poison. Put 1 more damage counter on your opponent's poison Pokemon between turns. If you're playing Toxapex, this thing is going to put 11 counters on your opponent's Pokemon between turns. That's insane. It's unnecessary. It also has Venomous Fang as its attack. For 1 Psychic, 2 colorless, you'll do 30 damage, and your opponent's active Pokemon is poisoned. Great, so he has a way to poison things, even though it costs a lot. Still not bad, at least he can do stuff. I think he'll see some play in those poison decks. Coming up. Next up is our ghosty friend here. Dusk Noir, which the artwork does look cool. Has Dark Invitation. Once during your turn, you may look at your opponent's hand, put a basic Pokemon you find there onto your opponent's bench, and put 3 damage counters on it. So it has Captivating Pokepuff, but on a Pokemon, and you can do it every turn. Really cool. It makes them want to play cards, but at the same point, it's gonna put damage on it. Also has Mind Jack, 1 Psychic, 2 colorless, 30 damage. This attack does 30 more damage for each of your opponent's benched Pokemon. Fantastic attack. Very good attack, and with the ability of having, like, being able to force the cards down, you don't have to run Captivating Pokepuff to do it now. You just go for a Dark Invitation and bam, you can get those Pokemon onto the bench. However, there is no more Skyfield. So in Standard, Dusk Noir's maximum damage is 180. Now again, you will be putting damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon, but as long as their bench is full, you're going to only do a maximum of 180. So keep that in mind. Again, you can always choice ban. Like, those are always options. You can choice ban. You can do other things, I guess, with Dusk Noir, but basic damage without any support is 180, and that is if they have a full bench. Anyway, moving on. We have a new Toxicroak. He's a Psychic type, and he's going off against Gardevoir. He knows he is the Gardevoir Slayer. Actually, I think they're kind of neutral. But anyway, Stage 1 has Poison Jab, 1 Psychic, 1 colorless, 30 damage. Your opponent's active is poisoned. Cool. Next up is Poison Boost. 2 Psychic, 1 colorless, 80 damage. If this Pokemon is poisoned, this attack does 80 more damage. Then remove that special condition from this Pokemon. So if you are poisoned, that's right, you will do 160 damage, and you will heal yourself. So you have to find a way to poison yourself every single turn to maximize this damage. I'm interested to see what will happen, but I can't see it being all that great. Scolipede is our next Psychic type bug here. It's a Stage 2 with Poison Horn for 2 Psychic, 1 colorless, 80 damage. Your opponent's active Pokemon is poisoned. Great. And we have Steamroller, 3 Psychic, 1 colorless, 140 damage. And this attack's damage is not affected by resistance. So Metagross, be careful. You can be hit for full damage on this thing. Not that it's going to knock anything out. We have a new Meowstic, who is definitely one of my favorite Pokemon, just because it's a cat. Look how beautiful it is. This one has a Lure. For 1 psychic energy, you're going to draw 3 cards. That's pretty good. I will not deny that. That's actually really strong. Getting additional card draw is always beneficial, especially early game. And then you have Hand Kinesis, 2 colorless. You're going to do 10 damage. This attack does 10 damage times the number of cards in your hand. Now, we have seen this kind of stuff before with Noctowl and all those kind of things. And this attack could be really, really good. You could pair it with things like, you know, your House and all those kind of things that just give you bonus cards every turn. However, people will use N. So as long as N is in standard, that attack is nothing. Because they will drop you down. If you are currently in the lead, you've got 20 cards in your hand, there's a potential to do 210 damage. But if they play an N, and you're currently in the lead with maybe 3 prizes, you will go from doing 210 to 30. You'll do 30 damage. So, non-consistent damage, but a really interesting card that once N does rotate, people are going to have to watch out for. But even then, we've got cards like Alima and all those kind of things where they have the ability to refresh both players' hands. So, I don't know. I personally like it. Next up is Palisand, who is a psychic type this time, because of his ghosty ability, ghosty typing. Has Sand Tomb, 1 psychic, 2 colorless, 80 damage. The defending Pokemon cannot retreat during your opponent's next turn. Kind of expensive for that. And you have Dust Storm, for 4 colorless energy. You can do 100 damage, but you do have to discard all cards attached to both players' active Pokemon. So, yeah, I'd rather just do not that. I'd rather just send it right back to your opponent's hand. If I was correct, who was that did that? That was Tapu Fini. Tapu Fini did this better. Tapu Fini did it better. Next up is Necrozma, which sadly I can't get you a better showcasing of the card here. But it has an interesting setup. So it has the ability Light's End. Prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from colorless Pokemon, both yours and your opponent. So if for whatever reason one of your Pokemon is doing residual damage onto Necrozma, it will not be affected as long as he's colorless. We also have, as his first attack, Prismatic Burst. 3 colorless energy. It's going to do 10 damage, discard all psychic energy attached to this Pokemon, and this attack will do 60 more damage for each energy discard in this manner. So, you need 3 energy to use it. If you've got all 3 of them being psychic, you will do 190 damage, which isn't too hard to get off. As Black Ray GX, this attack does 100 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon's EX and GX Pokemon. That's really big. That is really big. To do 100 damage to each of your opponent's EX and GX Pokemon is really big. It does not affect weakness, resistance, or any other effects on the defending Pokemon. So, that is actually a really powerful GX attack. Because again, most people you're going to be using Tapu Leles. In Expanded, you could still be using Shamans. 100 damage across the board is a lot of damage. And then I know this particular card has seen some play in Japan already since its release, so I don't have any ideas yet in deck building, but I'm sure some of you guys have, and I'm sure some of you guys are really excited for this card. We have Machamp here, who is getting ready to punch some people. I don't know where they're punching him, but still. Has Crosscut, 2 fighting. It's going to do 60 damage. If your opponent's active Pokemon is an evolution Pokemon, this attack does 60 more damage. So for 2 fighting energies and 120 damage on an evolution Pokemon, that's pretty good. You also have Bedrock Breaker for 3 fighting energy, 130 damage, discard any stadium card in play. Again, decent thing, and you can get rid of your opponent's stadiums before you play your own. Just a little downside that there is no draw to you getting rid of a stadium, like how in Lugia there's, I think one of the Lugias you do more damage if there's a stadium in play. This does not have any additional benefits if there is one. His GX attack is Muscle Punch, 3 fighting energy, 180 damage. This attack's damage is not affected by resistance. So, in my opinion, it's a pretty weak GX, because you're just doing damage. And a huge mention here, if you are getting a Machamp GX in pre-release, you pretty much got a useless GX because there are no Machops or Machokes in this set. This was the Sun and Moon +2 set where we got Machamp, and they had Machop and stuff, which is why we have them in our second base set. So Machamp GX was just meant to go with them. Same thing as Salazzle GX, where we had Salandit and Salazzle regular cards in our SM2, but they had the SM2 Plus, and that's why they were able to benefit from that, because they would just get reprints of those basic Pokemon, and we're not getting those. Which is fine, I don't want old cards already. Next up is Rhyperior, who's a pretty interesting looking guy. Rhyperior is a stage 2 with Toppling Wind as the ability. When you play this card from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you may discard the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck. Obviously, this is going to be something cool with the evolution spray, because drop it, next turn, pick it up, and then play, like de-evolve and do all those kind of things, so. And you can probably de-evolve and just evolve a few things at a time. I'm not sure how the de-evolving works. I've only played it a select amount of times, so I'm still a little fresh on the ruling, but it's got something cool. Next up, his attack is the Rock Wrecker. For 2 fighting, 2 colorless, you are going to do 170 damage, and this attack's damage isn't affected by weakness or resistance. And a lot of that is definitely in here this set. I've been saying that quite a bit, where it's not affected by weakness or resistance, so I don't know if it's just a trend in this set or not. We've got what everybody was expecting to see Alolan forms of was Lunatone and Solrock here. Lunatone has the ability Heal Block. If you have Solrock in play, Pokemon both yours and your opponent's cannot be healed. Nobody's gonna be worrying about that. It's got Lunar Blast for 1 fighting, 1 colors, 30 damage, and junk card. Probably same thing goes here for Solrock. Interesting looking artwork. Has double draw for 1 color, so you can draw 2 cards, which is actually really beneficial. It has Solar Heat for 1 fighting energy. You get to do 20 damage. If there is any stadium card in play, this attack does 20 more. Also junk card, but does have that draw effect, so if you're really looking for something and you don't want to evolve a Meowstic, you got an option. Next up, we have Lucario, and let's just say that artwork does look pretty intimidating. Has the ability Stance. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve your Riolu, you may prevent all effects of your opponent's attacks, including damage, done to this Pokemon until the end of your opponent's next turn. So as long as you evolve, he can't take damage. Really cool. It also has Submarine Blow, 120 damage for 3 fighting energy. Not worthwhile there. We have Sock, no throw this time, just a Sock. With Quick Guard for 1 fighting energy during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by your opponent's basic Pokemon. This Pokemon cannot use it on the following turn. So, typical Protect and all that kind of stuff. Has Brick Break, 1 fighting, 1 colors, 40 damage. This attack's damage is not affected by weakness, resistance, or any other effects on your opponent's active Pokemon. Again, common trend throughout the entire set. I think this card is pretty junky. He's not going to do much. Next up is a fighting type Crabrawler, and just look at him. He's pretty monstrous, and you can see the Blizzard right behind him. He has Gutsy Hammer, 80 damage. This Pokemon does damage to itself equal to the number of damage counters on it. That's not great, but for 1 fighting energy, you are doing 80 damage, so that is a lot. And then you have Double Stomp, 3 fighting energy, 80 damage. Flip 2 coins, this deck does 40 more damage for each head. So you have the potential of doing 160 damage, not too bad. He will be a pre-release promo, so he will definitely have some potential in pre-release format. If you can evolve him right away, he will have that Gutsy Hammer, and you can pretty much take care of your opponent's deck there. I would say this might be one of the best pre-release promos to get, just because of how cool he is. But in terms of regular play, he's not going to cut it. Next up is actually one of my favorite artworks here, and this is the Midnight Lycanroc. Obviously, stage 1, Dangerous Claws for 1 fighting energy, 30 damage. If your opponent's active Pokemon is a basic, you'll do 30 more. It has corner, 1 fighting, 2 colorless, 90 damage. The defending Pokemon can't retreat during your opponent's next turn. Other than the artwork, not a great card. We also have the midday form, and it has Rock Throw, 30 damage, and Excel Rock for 100 damage. Both these cards are pathetically next up is the Mudsdale, which if you ask Lady Ian is probably going to be one of her favorite cards from the set. It has Kick Away for 3 colorless energy. You get to do 60 damage, and you switch your opponent's active Pokemon with one of their bench. And then you have Vigorous Dash, 1 fighting, 3 colorless, 130 damage. This attack does 30 damage to this Pokemon and 30 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So, a little bit of damage to me, a lot of damage to you. I don't know, I can't see getting too much. We're getting a brand new Passimian here, and the artwork is really cool. It does look like he's taken on Lucario quite nicely here in the picture. But unfortunately, this one is not as intimidating as the Passimian from Sun and Moon. Passimian has Punch for 2 colorless energy, you'll do 30 damage, and then Intentional Grounding, 2 fighting energy, 90 damage, discard a Pokemon tool from your hand. If you can't, this attack does nothing. Now you can see why I'm saying it's not that great. Yeah, it's 2 fighting energy for 90 damage, which even nowadays is not a lot of damage. And unless you can discard a tool, you're doing nothing. So he's pretty underwhelming in my opinion. What's not underwhelming is this brand new ghosty fighting type. He is so cool looking in this card. I love him. Marshadow GX has the ability Shadow Hunt. This Pokemon can use the attacks of basic Pokemon in your discard pile. So as long as they're not in the active position or on your bench, you can use their attacks, which is absolutely fantastic. Sometimes you have that basic Pokemon that you don't want your opponent to be using, but it's got a fantastic attack on it. There you go. Marshadow is going to use that for you. And you can easily Ultra Ball or find some way to get rid of it. Not a big deal. It has Beatdown as its regular attack for 120 damage, so it's not terrible. It's going to cost you 2 fighting, 1 colors. Not a big deal. But it does have Peerless 100 Blows GX. For 1 fighting energy, you'll do 50 times damage, which is important. This attack does 50 damage times the number of basic energies attached to this Pokemon. So, if you have the necessary 3 energies to use Beatdown, you will hit for 150 damage. But if you attach additional energy in case of something else, you can increase this to a lot higher. A scale that is really cool. So, not bad thing here. And again, you can drop, if you've already got this thing down and you know you gotta get more damage down to take on maybe a Metagross or a Solgaleo, you can hit the 250 mark by just dropping another double colorless energy down. Yeah, he'll have 5 energies on him, but he can hit for good damage. Marshadow is definitely something you're going to have to watch out for. And he counters some pretty big threats, so keep an eye out for him. Next up is Alolan Raticate, who's got some pretty interesting artwork. Has Reinforced Fang. It costs nothing to use. It's going to do 10 damage. Free 10 damage is always great. If this Pokemon has a Pokemon 2 card attached to it, this attack does 50 more damage. Cool. So, for nothing, I mean nothing, 10 damage, Choice Band for 40, and then another 50. So I can do 90 damage for free. That's not bad. And then you got Hyper Fang for 1 dark energy. You get to do 60 damage. However, it does have that negative of flipping a coin, and if tails, it does nothing. So, I don't think it would be something I would put into a deck, but it's something that would be really cool in pre-release because it's a free attack. And again, talking about free attacks, we do have a Alolan Rattata who's got that nice little mustache going on. Has that free focus energy during your next turn. This Pokemon's bite attack is going to do, his base damage is 60. So, yeah, for a Rattata, that's actually a lot of damage. Next up is the Alolan Muck GX, who's got some pretty ferocious looking artwork. He's got 2 pretty expensive attacks, one being Chemical Breath, 1 dark, 2 colorless to use, 10 damage. This attack does 70 more damage for each special condition affecting your opponent's active Pokemon. So, if it's paralyzed, it'll do 70. If it's confused, it'll do 70. If it's poisoned, burned, you get the idea. Crunch for 2 dark energy, 2 colorless, 120 damage. Discard 1 energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. Cool, so you don't have a high damage, but you do get to mitigate some of the energy away from your opponent. So that is really good. In terms of, you know, it's a high cost. What do you expect? It has Tri-Hazard GX for free. I mean, you can use this for free. Choose one of your opponent's bench Pokemon and switch it in with their active. The new active Pokemon is poisoned, burned, and paralyzed. So, remember that Chemical Breath? It says we'll do 70 more for each additional special condition. Well, 7, 8, 14, 21, now you're doing 210 damage, but it is the cost of your GX attack. So be careful on that, because they can always just switch. And there's a card coming up later that makes Alolan Muck kind of not that intimidating. So you'll see what I mean in a little bit. Next up is Weavile, who's got some pretty intense artwork. Has Dark Awakening for 1 colorless energy. This attack does 60 damage to every Pokemon in play that has an ability. Most people use abilities, so this will do quite a bit of damage across. I know decks that every single card, barring maybe one, has an ability on it. So 60 damage for 1 colorless is actually really good across the board. Has Slash, 1 dark, 1 colorless, 70 damage, but you want to use Dark Awakening. Now, we are going to see the new Darkrai. I keep pulling off the screen because of where I think it is. Has Hypnoblast, 1 dark, 1 colorless, 30 damage. Your opponent's active Pokemon becomes asleep. And then it has Dark Raid, 1 dark, 2 colorless, 80 damage. If your opponent has used their GX attack, this attack does 80 more damage. That's actually pretty decent. So if your opponent plays a very fast and heavy deck in terms of using their GX attack, Darkrai will benefit from that. It'll punish your opponent by doing 160 damage for 3 energy, which isn't bad for a non-GX attacker. Next up is the big guy, though. Oh, wow. Well, I can try, guys. I can try to make him bigger, but it's not going to work. This Darkrai GX, though, is really interesting and will definitely see play. Has the ability Resurrection. Once during your turn, if this card is in your discard pile, you may play this card to your bench and attach a dark energy from your discard pile to it. Darkrai EX will love this thing because you just sacrifice it, come back, and it's good to go. And you can do this with, you know, if you've got 2 or 3 of these in your deck and you're still running Darkrai GX or EX, you know, Ultra Ball this guy and Dark Energy away, get your Darkrai EX, boom, it's on the field, boom, now this guy's got energy on it to benefit that Darkrai. It's a good combo already and you haven't even done anything. This guy has Dark Rift for 2 dark energy, 1 colorless. It's going to do 130 damage, and this attack's damage isn't affected by resistance. Not a great, particularly strong attack for a Darkrai, but you know what? It's really to partner up with some other Pokemon, and it has got some pretty decent stuff. It has Dead End GX, 2 dark energy, colorless. If your opponent's active Pokemon is affected by a special condition, that Pokemon is now knocked out. So this does partner up with the Darkrai from here, who can put your opponent to sleep. But again, you can easily partner this up with like Raichu from earlier in the set, where once it evolves, it paralyzes something. Cool, so now I guarantee to knock something out. Maybe a threat, maybe not, but I will knock something out just because that Raichu paralyzed something. Really cool combinations. Again, the only downside is that Dark Rift, that main attack for him. So again, use him as a secondary, but that's pretty cool. Next up, as our final Dark type, it's Malamar. We have Psybeam for 20 damage for 1 dark energy. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now confused. And then you have Energy Slosh, 1 dark, 2 colorless, 70 damage. You may move all energy from this Pokemon to one of your benched. Yeah, junk. Alright, the Fairy Queen is here. The Gardevoir GX has the ability Secret Spring. Once during your turn, you may attach a fairy energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon. Very strong. This means I will be able to play 2 fairy energies every turn as long as Gardevoir is in play. And if I've got multiple Gardevoirs, I can continuously get more energy. It has Infinity Force for 1 fairy energy. This attack does 30 damage times the number of energy attached to both active Pokemon. So yes, it only costs me 1 to attack. But I need to make sure that I have more energy on it. But it's not affected, like, there is no thing here stating it's affected by weakness or resistance. So unlike Mewtwo EX and Mega Mewtwo EX, this has got a lot more damage output. So if you can get those energies down really quickly, bam! And you can partner this probably up with like a Dragonair, with that one that if you attack with it, you can use all your energy on the following turn. You can get a lot of energy down. Next up is Twilight GX for 1 fairy energy. You get to search your discard pile for 10 cards. Show them to your opponent and shuffle them back into your deck. If you need your tools, they're back in the deck. So you can go for a high energy count, put it on here, boom. And with that GX attack, you're not too threatened by losing resources. We have Diancie here, good old Diancie, has Sparkling Wish for 1 fairy energy. Search your deck for a card that evolves from one of your Pokemon and put it onto that Pokemon to evolve it. Then shuffle your deck afterwards. Perfect partner for Gardevoir. Because Gardevoir is a stage 2, Diancie can now help evolve it for that fairy energy. Very, very powerful. Has Diamond Storm, 1 fairy, 1 colorless, 30 damage, heal 30 damage from each of your fairy Pokemon. Not a whole lot there. You are literally going to use it for the Sparkling Wish if you want to go really early in the game and just try and evolve Gardevoir GX as fast as possible. Next up is the new Cutie Fly. Sorry, this is Rabombi, not Cutie Fly. This is Cutie Fly. Anyway, it has Honey Gather. Once during your turn, you can search your deck for 2 basic energies and put them into your hand, shuffle afterward. It literally was like they're making cards specifically for Gardevoir. I don't know, like there's like everything just for Gardevoir. Next up we have a new Fairy Shiinotic. We've had one in the past where it's Grass type. It evolves. Sorry, it's a stage 1. Strength Sap, 1 fairy, 1 colorless, 30 damage. Heal from this Pokemon 30 damage times the amount of energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. He's only got 100 HP, so I don't know what we're trying to heal from, because we're gonna just get knocked out. Has Sleep Pulse, 1 fairy, 2 colorless, 60 damage. Your opponent's active Pokemon is asleep. Meh. Junk card. But you know what isn't a junk card? Look at this bad boy. Look at this bad boy. Oh, you guys had to have known I was hyped for this thing. This thing, when it's showcased, I freaking just jumped out of bed and I was like, there's a Noivern GX! There's a Noivern GX! And it's actually playable in Expanded right now. Okay, hear me out. Double Dragon Energy is rotating. So these attacks are kind of expensive. But in Expanded, this thing will be pretty cool. And if we find a way to distort the energy costs in a future expansion, then Noivern GX will see play. For sure, guaranteed. It has Distort, 1 dark energy, 1 colorless, 50 damage. During your opponent's next turn, your opponent can't play item cards. It's Seismitoad EX again. They did it! They did it! Yes, it is not a basic, but they did it. You can Wally, you can Max Elixir, you can get this thing down turn 1. You have the ability to do what it takes to get Distortion off and hit for 50 and block them down from item cards. Huge play, huge card. Definitely something that would work well with, say, a Trevenant if you're using it for that. But needless to say, Item Lock is coming back. It has Sonic Volume, 1 psychic, 1 dark, 1 colorless, 120 damage. During your opponent's next turn, your opponent can't play any special energy cards from their hand. So you have one kind of stopping them to do something. You have another thing that they can stop. What else is there for him? He has Boom Burst GX. 1 psychic, 1 dark, 1 colorless. This attack does 50 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. This is the weakest part of Noivern, because I love this attack, but as a GX attack, it's not great. I kind of would have preferred to see like Sonic Volume, maybe scale up the damage, and then move it as the GX attack, because Boom Burst is such a nice attack for spread damage. And unfortunately, with a stall kind of deck like Noivern will be creating, I don't know how well spread damage is going to work, but we'll see how it goes. That's the only nitpick I have on Noivern GX. Next up, we have Zygarde, and I gotta say, I just want the card specifically for the artwork because it is beautiful. I like Zygarde, I like the new form he has, and I kind of am expecting him to get a little bit more strong, a little better. But this particular card, without double colorless energy, is not good. Okay, so turn 1, I can drop a double colorless energy. Turn 2, I can go for Core Enforcer. Now, he does have an attack before that, which is Land Crush, 3 colorless, 80 damage. Not a big deal. But as long as I played a double colorless energy and a colorless, I can go for Core Enforcer, 150 damage. You discard a dark or a... you discard a dark and fairy energy from this Pokemon. Now, I don't remember how it was, but there is a card, I think it's Florges, that removes the fairy cost from attacks. So with this, it would become a 3-cost attack for 1 dark, 2 colorless. You're doing 150 damage, choice band 180, and you don't have to discard the fairy energy because it's not there, and you have a dark energy that you discard every turn. So you could hit 180 with this thing. Again, not going to be a crucial card in competitive, but there are ways to make this decently work. We have Persian here. New Persian, not a lowland Persian, just Persian. Has Screech for 1 colorless energy. During your next turn, the defending Pokemon takes 60 more damage from attacks. And then it has Slash, so I can go 40, 100. Superior did it better. Next up, we've got the new Porygon Z. Has the ability Initialize. When you play this card from your hand to evolve a Pokemon, you may devolve each of your opponent's evolved Pokemon and put the highest stage evolution card back in your opponent's hand. Now, you do not have the ability to end, because this is... Oh, sorry, it is an ability, so you could end right afterwards, and they would have all of their baby Pokemon back in play. But if you're playing a basic deck, that's not great. And again, this is a stage 2. That was the hard part. I have to have a full line of Porygon, Porygon 2, Porygon Z in order to use this ability. So it's not a great card in that aspect. It has Zap Cannon for its attack. For 3 colorless energy, you will do 80 damage, and you can't use it on your next turn. So, I don't know. I don't know how much play Porygon Z we'll see, but it does have an interesting ability. It just isn't very good on stage 2. Next up, we are going to have Noctowl. The baby birdie returns, but he's not as great. He has Hypnoblast for 1 colorless energy. It's going to do 30 damage. Your opponent's active Pokemon is asleep. And then you have Night Raid, 3 colorless energy, 70 damage. Look at your opponent's hand, discard a Pokemon from there. Cool. Kind of interesting, not a good card. Nowhere near as good as the old one. Next up, we have Bouffalant. Bouffalant has 2 colorless energy for Bouffant Head, 30 damage. During your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes 30 less damage after attacks. From attacks, sorry. Not a great card. Has Knockover, 3 colorless energy, 80 damage. You may discard a stadium card in play. You may is a very crucial card because if you keyword there, because if your stadium is in play, you don't have to remove it. And there's no penalty if you don't. So that's a nice thing to have. But overall, again, kind of a junk card. Now, my baby Noibat is here to stay. He's got a new, pretty artwork in the Sun and Moon format. I love him. I'm gonna have like 100. Like, I'm gonna be asking for everybody to send me Noibats. He has agility for 1 colorless energy, does 10 damage, and you get to flip a coin if heads during your opponent's next turn. You get to prevent all effects of attacks, including damage done to this Pokemon. Which is absolutely amazing, because it will stall out to get to your Noivern GX. So not only have you done 10 damage, which is just a little bit of chip damage, but you've made it impossible for them to actually deal with Noibat. Other than damage counters. Next up we have Beware. Beware is a pretty... I think it's not going to be a great Pokemon either. Has Mix Up, 2 colorless energy, you get to flip a coin. If has, discard the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck. If you are playing Mill, that's a good attack. Because it's only 2 energy, like 1 double colorless energy. After an evolution, you can start getting rid of cards. It has Tantrum, 3 colorless energy, 120 damage, but you're confused. Mix Up might be the only thing you're going to use, and there are probably better ways to discard cards from your opponent's deck. Charizard! So we'll be interested to see how it goes. That is finally the end of the Pokemon. At least for now. Starting up, we have Acerola for our supporters. Acerola is a pretty interesting one here because put one of your Pokemon that has any damage counters on it and all cards attached to it back to your hand. Very, very clutch thing. It's like AZ, but the difference here is you just can't go like, oh look, I need my Tapu Lele again. Bounce it. I need my Shaman again. Bounce it. It needs to have damage counters on it. So, and unfortunately there's no more Team Magma Secret Base, so you can't use that to help out with Acerola. In Expanded you can. But Acerola will definitely be something you will see a lot more of in competitive. It's a very good supporter. But one thing I gotta note, at this point, there is no VS Seeker in standard play. Once the rotation happens, we will not have VS Seeker, so you gotta be careful on your supporters and when you use them, because you cannot bring them back. You have Bodybuilding Dumbbells as our next trainer card, and this is a really cool one. Not really. You get to attach it. It's the stage 1 Pokemon this card is attached to gets 40 more HP. I'd rather have Fighting Fury Belt, and that was for basics. Like stage 1, you'd think, okay, we're going to do a little bit more with it. Now this is really good for Sylveon, because it does give Sylveon that boost to 240, which it does need in case it gets hit by like a Metagross. I still think Metagross knocks it out regardless. It's 300 damage. But needless to say, that additional 40 HP would probably be only good for Sylveon. After that, for a lot of them, they don't need the HP boost, they need something else like damage, which is where Choice Band usually comes into play. We are getting a brand new Escape Rope, beautiful card. Most of you know what it is, but for those of you who don't, Escape Rope lets each player switch their active with one of their own benched. Your opponent will switch first, and then you will. Pretty easy card. Now here's a really good supporter, and this supporter, if you guys are looking for full arts and money cards, this is going to be one of them right off the top, because we have seen so much value out of Lysander. People are going to immediately switch to this, because if you guys didn't know, Lysander does rotate with the new standard in September. Guzma literally does what Lysander does, but better or worse depending on the deck. So Guzma, switch your opponent's active Pokemon with one of their bench. We've seen this plenty of times, where Lysander will come in and it will bring in that Pokemon that you want to knock out. However, then switch your active with one of your benched. Pair this with Golisopod and you'll be able to first impression every turn. That's a very good way of going. But for some decks, that may not be what you want, especially if you've got that main attacker already in place and you have to Guzma to get that target in, but you have to move your main guy out. So there are ways around this, but it is going to be a good boon and bane for some decks. I think it'll be really interesting to see how Guzma turns out in competitive play. I know everybody will be running it though. Next up is Kiwi. Kiwi has search your deck for up to 4 fire energy cards and attach them to one of your Pokemon. That is huge! Ho-Oh, set up turn 1. Charizard, it's almost there. You can drop your energy, play this. There you go, Charizard turn 1. Your turn will end, though, after playing this supporter. So it's a really, really good burnout card, and it is a fantastic supporter for fire decks early game. So keep an eye on it. It will be something you will see. Next up, we do have Lana. Heal 50 damage from each of your Pokemon that has any water energy attached to it. So, and it's an okay supporter. I don't know. I'm not big on it. I wish she was better, but she's not. Healing is good. Healing is great. But I'd rather be using a supporter to do something else. So, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. My immediate response to that is I don't like it. Our new stadium is Mount Lanakila. The retreat cost of each basic Pokemon in play is 1 colorless energy more. So, it does pair well. Who is the one that did the energy costs? Wobbuffet. It pairs well with Wobbuffet on basics because you will see the energy. You'll be able to do more damage based on their energy cost. Whoops, I went too far. I'm still not. There we are. There we are. Okay. Don't mind all that. I just got lost. Anyway, it's an interesting stadium. Next up, we have Olivia. Now, she does have a full art version of her, but it's not in the set. It was a promo card in Japan, so I'm sure we'll probably get it either in the next set or in some sort of thing eventually. Olivia lets you search your deck for up to 2 Pokemon GX, reveal them, and put them into your hand. Then you shuffle your deck afterwards. Very strong supporter. It's literally a Bridget, but 1 less Pokemon, but 2 GX. Now, at this moment in time, why wouldn't you just use Bridget? Well, here's the thing. Bridget puts them right onto the bench. It depends on the situation. So if you are guaranteed you want to just grab Tapu Leles, you can grab these, get the effects off. So there is your change. So if you're going to use Olivia, it's because you want them into your hand to benefit from ability drops. But if you don't have that problem, go for Bridget. You'll get 3. And if you're using other Pokemon, you can get those as well, as long as they're not EX. You can only go for 1 EX with Bridget. Next up is Plumeria, who's got pretty standard artwork. Discard 2 cards from your hand. If you do discard 1 energy. Sorry, the writing on that's not great. Discard 2 cards from your hand. If you do, discard 1 energy from your opponent's Pokemon. Now, Team Flare Grunt is in standard still, because of generations. So Plumeria might have a nice niche because of the discard 2. That seems weird, but if you've got certain cards in your discard pile, you can benefit from it. Again, there's one. Like, you can use it for Marshadow decks where you get to remove an energy, discard 2 cards, and now I have a Pokemon in the discard pile where Marshadow can now use its ability to use their attacks. Cool card. Very interested to see how it will play out in future games. Next up is Po-Town. Pretty rainy kind of art. Has whenever any player plays a Pokemon from their hand to evolve one of their Pokemon, put 3 damage counters on that. So you're going to definitely be playing this in a deck that has just basics so that you don't take damage, but you penalize those people that are going to be playing evolved Pokemon. We have the new Rotom Dex Poke Finder mode. Look at the top 4 cards of your deck and put them back on top of your deck in any order you like, or shuffle them back into your deck. This card is strong. Now, it is not as strong as some cards. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of knowledge from Magic the Gathering. I forget the total name of it, but I think it's Divining Top, where you can use it every turn, look at the top cards of your deck, and restructure. Only downside to this is it doesn't stay on the field and you can't use it multiple turns. But if you got multiple of them, you could do that. Is it worth deck space? I don't think so. unless you're really conscientious of like what you need next turn. Like if you played this, say, in Sylveon again, you can readjust where you're going to be drawing, and then you're good to go. Again, it could be really good for Quad Wob, where you can kind of set up and go for that. I think this card might be better for Quad Wob than Sylveon. But in regards to anything else, it's a very situational card, and I don't know. It'll see some play, it may not. Next up is Sophocles. I think he might be our weakest supporter, in my opinion. Discard 2 cards from your hand. If you do, draw 4 cards. It's not really beneficial. I think there are better supporter cards out there. Even How is technically better, because yes, I'm drawing 1 less card, but I don't have to get rid of 2 cards to do it. Again, I guarantee you there are people already looking at Sophocles and thinking it way better than me, but that's just my comment for it is, I don't know. One card that is really nice to have back in Standard is Super Scoop Up, and I do like the artwork here. You get Flip a Coin. If heads, put one of your Pokemon and all cards attached to it back to your hand. This is very strong for cards that do something based on fully evolving, so that's always great. Like back in the day, we had the Crobat line where it would do damage every time it evolved, and then you would scoop it up and then continue that chain. And then you could just evolve additional parts of it if you had a stage, like, because Crobat was a stage 2, if you had like 2 or 3 Zubats that are at different stages, you could just evolve them through with that one you've returned to your hand. So Super Scoop Up definitely will add some new things to the game. Well, return some new things to the game. Next up is Tormenting Spray. Choose a random card from your opponent's hand. Your opponent reveals that card. If it's a supporter card, discard it. I like it. Again, if you're playing Stall, this card could be good, but it's random. Like, the only way you discard it is if it's a supporter card. So if you only see them with 1 card left in hand, 9 times out of 10, if they're not playing a unlucky hand, like if they didn't get bricked, 9 times out of 10, it is going to be a supporter like a Sycamore and End so that they can play next turn. Tormenting Spray will get rid of that. That is a benefit. But otherwise, this card is very situational. I cannot see it getting a lot of play. Weakness Policy does return. For those of you who are afraid of being hit by weakness, this card will be just the tool card for you. Especially if it's something in Standard where, okay, for example, what? Say Lycanroc. Lycanroc GX does not like grass types, so Decidueye was a big problem for it. Weakness Policy will take care of that. Not a problem. I'm not big on using it myself, but I'm sure a lot of people will love this thing back. Our next supporter is Wick. Each player counts the cards in their hand, shuffle those cards into their deck, and draws that many cards. Positives and minuses to this. Now again, this is a card like that will knock out a Meowstic pretty quickly, if we remember what I was talking about earlier. But the thing I don't like about this is it's not like an N or a Lima where it alters hand sizes. If you've already got 7 cards in hand, all you're doing is changing those 7 cards. That sounds great when you've got 7 cards, but if you've got 1 and you pull a Wick, you're like, well, I get 1 additional. I can change this 1 card for 1 card. I like the card, and I think it'll see some play depending on the deck. Like, again, think of it this way. Sylveon or Wob. You play it down. You shuffle your hand away because you've got no useful tools in your hand. You got 7 or 8 cards in your hand. You got a brand new 7 or 8. You get something new to try out and potentially cause damage to your opponent. And again, they're going to rotate your opponent's hand out of potentially a great hand. But I could just use N to do the same thing. Like, I don't know. Next up is the Wishful Baton, which has got a pretty basic artwork. Has, if the Pokemon this card is attached to is your active and is knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack, move up to 3 basic energy cards from that Pokemon to one of your bench Pokemon. That is good. Very, very field blower target. Like that is a big field blower target right there. But really, really cool item card. Neat to see. Now, I'm just going to say this now. We've hit the full arts. We've hit a nice time in this video. We have done a lot of deck ideas. A lot of cool things have come up in this set. Now is your time to tell me what is your favorite full art from the set. Remember, guys, you cannot include Charizard because it is not part of the set. And I'll take a look at all of them here. So we do have Golisopod. Now, I can't get any bigger than this. Well, it doesn't mean too much for you guys. You'll see it pretty nicely. Very nice full art. Full art wise, we have Tapu Bulu GX, which actually is a fantastic Pokemon. So for those of you who do not know what Tapu Bulu GX, it was a tin GX. We got it in, we had Tapu Koko and Tapu Bulu come out together, and the Tapu Bulu regular art is obviously not in the set. Tapu Bulu is a very competitive card. Has Horn Attack for 1 Grass Energy, 30 damage, and Nature's Judgment, 2 Grass, 1 Colorless, 120 damage. You may discard all energies attached to this, and if you do, you'll do 60 more, so that's that 180 mark that we need to hit. And it has that Tapu Wilderness GX, 2 Grass, 1 Colorless, 150 damage, but you do get to heal all the damage off of this guy. Take a look at the previous video I uploaded. I had Tapu Bulu Vikavolt. Tapu Bulu is definitely competitive, and I highly recommend checking him out if you haven't already. Ho-Oh GX definitely has a nice full art. It's a little depressing that there's not a lot more rainbow to it. It's very, like, I don't know, not flat, but I'm sure it'll look amazing once you have it in real life. All these full arts have looked way better in real life than they do in here. Next up is the Salazzle full art, which really does look nice. That shine is going to make her look gorgeous. Tapu Fini looks really happy in this full art. She's got that smile. I'm way too high. She's got that smile that's not actually apparent, and her arms are up. She's like, yay! I just get a happy sense from her. Next up is Necrozma, who definitely stands out, has that prism color feel. I think he'll be pretty cool nonetheless. I think it'll be a very good card. And the full art does look nice. One of the ones I'm not a big fan of is probably Machamp's. It's just, he's not punching, he's not really doing anything, he's kind of just standing there ready to fight, but not even that. I'm kind of unimpressed with this one. We have the Lycanroc Midday, and again, this one here, we did not have the Midday form in the set, but we did have a promotional box for the non-full art version of this GX. So it's nice to see that we did get the full arts from this. In terms of my opinion on it, it's Lycanroc. Like, what's not to like? He's a dog, he's awesome, give me one. Marshadows, I really do like. I love that they used his green form. I know it's more for his attacking and not the other form where he's just like more pitch black, but I really like the outfit, the effects and all this. Obviously on the regular GX, he's got all those punches and he looks way more threatening, but this one here does look really nice. I'm actually going to be honest with you here with the Alolan Muck. I find there's more artwork and detail in the original GX than in this one. It'll be a cool one to grab, but not the ones I need to get immediately. Darkrai GX, oh boy, this is a big one. Very nice, but a little, I don't know how to say this. It doesn't look awesome. Now, I'm gonna probably get a lot of flack with that, but the art style is just kind of choppy. Like, it's like, I don't know, again, it'll be something I need to see in real life, but he looks flat in comparison to, like, I don't think he's too far away. Let's see. Darkrai. Like, this one here just has, again, I can't bring up too much, but it has so much more dynamic, with the background and the darkness in the eye. He looks evil. This one here kind of looks kid-friendly. This one here just kind of looks kid-friendly. He does look menacing, and it looks like he's got like the blue wisps of a ghost, but he's not a ghost type. So, I don't know. I'm not the biggest on the Darkrai. Let me know what you guys think. Gardevoir's is Gardevoir. Pretty standard. I'm not the biggest Gardevoir fan. Lady Yan likes it, so we'll probably get one for sure. Now, there's no competition for me. Noivern GX Full Art is where my heart goes. I will need 80 of these. Not literally. I might get 4 for a deck, but that's it. These things are amazing, and I need them. Full art supporters. Acerola's is really, really cute. It fits her personality really nice. Guzma's, I do enjoy it. I don't like it as much as I did Lysander's. If I'm going to compare the two, because they're pretty much the same card, I did prefer Lysander's more. But I think this fits with Guzma's personality more than if I had like the side profile Lysander's did. Keyways is really cool, having that fire eruption come right up from behind him. It looks really good, and I do enjoy it. Plumeria's is... It fits her personality, but the artwork in general for her, like, is pretty tame. Like, it's not even anything against her. Like, it's her personality and everything. There's just not much to her in terms of, like, weird poses or anything like that. If you get what I mean. Like, I'm not trying to be a negative here. Like, it fits her character. It's a very nice full art for her character. There's just not much going on for her. Sophocles has a really cute little full art here. I really do like the detail to like adding the little Pikachu and the items that he uses, like all his little toys. So that is a nice up. Wick is a good full art for a lot of men. I'm gonna say that now. I'm gonna try and keep this PG, but she's a good full art. It'll be interesting to see how many of you guys say Wick is probably one of your favorites. Just gonna go with that. Alright, I'm not going to go over the full art or the hyper rares too much here, because they're literally the same, but we are going to get the hyper rare Charizard, which is, again, something brand new for us, and I do like it. I actually personally prefer it more so than the regular art, just because I like the single stance for him. I don't know, it just makes him look like he's towering over you. I like it. And I think that was it in terms of hyper rares, because these are all the same. And then our secret rare items, we do have dumbbells. Probably my least favorite of them all. We have the secret rare choice band, which is just going to be expensive. I'm going to say that right now. If you guys are getting choice bands, this is the full art to get. It is beautiful. It's going to be expensive because choice band is everywhere. Escape rope is a really nice one to finally get like the gold art treatment. Very nice card to have. I don't really care about the multi-switch. Move one energy from your bench Pokemon to your active. It's cool that it's got a secret rare, but I don't really plan to use it. And another really standard one that will see a lot of value is the Rescue Stretcher. This is definitely one of those cards that you're going to need to grab because it is used in a lot of decks. So I felt weird having it beside Field Blower, and Field Blower having the full art treatment where this guy didn't. And now that it does, it's like, thank you, Pokemon. I finally get that secret rare Rescue Stretcher that needed to go beside it. So the decks will look a little bit more golden. And I think, oh no, and we do have the secret rare Super Scoop Up. Beautiful, needed it, thank you. And there are 3 energies for the set: is the Fire Energy, the Dark Energy, and the Fairy Energy. So I'm pretty sure are we missing any? Grass is done, Fighting is done, Lightning is done. Water? I don't think Water's done. Steel, Psychic were set 1. Grass, Lightning, and Fighting. And then these 3. Water is not done. Is Water the only one? Either way, if there's another energy type that I'm missing for whatever reason, because, you know, it's boggling my mind right now, that has not got the gold art treatment, let me know in the comment section below, but I think it's just Water. And I might even be wrong on that. But that is our set, guys. I know it's been a long video. I'm talking about at least an hour and a half. And I really do appreciate that those of you who stick around to the very end do so. It does mean a lot to me that you guys check out my good old set reviews and see everything in my opinions on the new set. In terms of this, I think this set is going to be really, really good in terms of playability, new cards that'll change the format. I don't think it'll be as good as Guardians Rising. Guardians Rising was just out of this world good. But I really do think this set will be still better than the base Sun and Moon. So keep an eye out for a lot of these cards. Definitely message me your pulls and what you are most excited for and all those kind of things, because this is going to be a pretty hype set nonetheless, and I will definitely be streaming a 100-pack opening once I get the codes and everything set up for it. So keep an eye out for that. But that is where this video is going to end. Again, let me know your favorite full art, let me know what you're most hyped for in the set, and yeah, just anything else about the set that you guys want to comment on, let me know in the comment section below. But that is going to be it for me. If you guys are brand new here, please hit that subscribe button. We have hit that magical 750, which means we are 3/4 of the way to 1,000 subscribers, and I cannot wait to see what we can hit next. But that is going to be it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. But until then, time out.